For however long you've been working with Photoshop, you've probably come to realize that there are several ways that you can start working on a new document. I'm here to tell you that none of those ways works well with video. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how I recommend you bring assets into a video project in Photoshop. And I'm also going to show you why the other ways of bringing in assets, the other ways of starting a new project, just don't work that well when you're working with video. So to follow along, just start up Photoshop. This is probably how your workspace looks when you open up Photoshop. This is the Essentials workspace. And you know that there are basically three different ways to open up new documents. Just go up to File, and you can choose amongst New, Open, or Browse in Bridge or Mini Bridge. Those are the three basic ways to open up new documents inside Photoshop. None of these methodologies work well with video. I'm going to show you why that is in each case, and then I'm going to show you my recommended way to bring in assets in a video project. Let's start off by going to New. When you click New, you get this new dialog box, and you need to choose a preset. And when you're working with video, you want to choose a film and video preset. And inside that film and video preset, you need to select a size. And typically, you'll probably select HD. The thing is, there aren't very many options for HD. You go down to here, you see that there are only 2997 frames per second. There aren't any 25 frames per second options here that you'd use with PAL, for example. Nevertheless, you can always change the frame rate once you open up a timeline. So we'll select HDTV 1080p, which is a full-size HD screen. And you want to have your size match the size of the video that you're going to work with inside the project. So this seems like a good way to go at first. So now I click OK. But this is creating a still document. This is not creating a video document. So now you need to, let's say, convert this into a video document. So what do? Let's just change workspaces here to motion. And now you look at the timeline, and there's no timeline here. You need to create a timeline. So that's an extra step. So you click this little button. Now you got a timeline. That converts what was a background layer into a standard layer and puts it on the timeline. Well, the last thing you need on the timeline is a white blank layer like this. This is a useless piece of stuff that just got thrown there because you converted a still image to a video file. So now if you want to work with video, you go over here to this little plus sign and track down a video clip. So I'm going to go over here to our Digital Juice stock footage there and bring in this one, for example. Now that adds that video to this track with this extra layer here that's not necessary. So I need to click on this and then delete it. And now we've started the project, but that's kind of a cumbersome way to get going. So I'm going to delete this. There we go. Let's try the other way that would typically be the standard approach. You go File, Open. Now we want to have several clips at once, right? So I'm going to select 5 clips. I'll click on the first one here and shift click on the 5th one. We have 5 clips selected because I want to have 5 clips show up in the timeline. So I click OK or click Open. What's going to happen now? It's going to create 5 documents. That's the last thing I need is 5 documents. I want one document with 5 clips in it. So I've got 5 documents here, each with 1 clip and 1 layer. Not what I want. So I'm going to get rid of that by clicking File, Close All, Apply to All, and Don't Save. Okay, so far we're batting 0 for 2. Let's go to Bridge now. File, we'll browse in Mini Bridge just to kind of keep it here inside Photoshop. Here's Mini Bridge down here. And we've got these scenes again. I'm going to select the first 5 again. So I'll click on this one and click on this one with the Shift key down. I got 5 selected. Now I right click on any one of them. I've got 2 choices. I can open with Photoshop, or I can go to Photoshop, load files into Photoshop layers. If I choose open with Photoshop, it's the same as going up to here, going File, Open. Same thing. So I don't need to do that. I don't want to have 5 different documents. I want to have one document with 5 things in it. So I'm going to right click on this again and go Photoshop, load files into Photoshop layers. And that sounds promising, right? Here we go. But in fact, it's not all that promising because it's going to create one document with 5 different video tracks, 1 track per clip. Kind of a messy thing when you're done with it. Okay, finally we're done. We've got these 5 separate clips here on 5 separate layers. Take a look at the timeline, you'll see what I mean. There are 5 layers that are all stacked up one above the other, so you see only the one on top, this little waterfall on top for Scenic 1. Again, this is not a good thing. I'm showing you this because Adobe has not stated a definitive way to start projects and bring assets into a project when you're working with video in Photoshop. There really is no standardized way to do this, but I will show you what I think should be the standardized way. So let's close this guy down. Say no. Now here's the standardized way. Let's say we go back to the Essentials workspace. Even reset it to make sure we're normal opening spot. So now here you are. You open up Photoshop, you've got this blank slate. First order of business is to switch to the Motion workspace. Go to Essentials, go to Motion. That opens up a timeline, and the timeline is already active. It's ready to go. You've already got one track here, a video track. So what you need to do now is simply click on this little plus. You could go to this drop-down list here and go Add Media, but that's 2 steps, right? Here's 1 step. Just click on the plus, That opens up the Add Clips dialog box, and you're now there ready to go. Let's say we select the first 5 here. Click on the first one, shift click on that 5th one, and click open. And here they are all going to come in one video track, exactly the way you would expect them to come in. And this is the way to start a video project here in Photoshop. Once you do this, now you can add more assets to this project. Let's say I wanted some more clips inside this track. I just click on the plus sign again. Go get a few more. So I'll go get, let's say, 6 through 9 here. Click on the first, shift click on the 9th one there, click open. That's going to add those additional 4 clips at the end of this collection of clips. Now you don't see them, but if you just move the scroll bar to the right, there are those 4 additional clips showing up there. They also show up here inside the video group, the layer group there inside this track. If I want to put some clips above this in a separate track, I just go over here to this little drop down arrow, click on that and go New Video Group, and that adds another video track. I can click on the plus sign over here again and get some more clips. So I'm going to scroll down here and get a couple of time-lapse clips here. I'll get this 1 and 2 by Control or Command clicking on the second one. Click open, and here they come. They're going to come at the beginning of this track. No matter where the play it is, they're going to come at the beginning of the track. But that's not a big deal if you want to move them around. You can just drag them around like that. Let's say you want to add some audio. Well, you've already got one audio track here ready to go now that you've started this project. So I'm going to go over here, click the plus sign, and track down some audio. The thing is, when you click on that plus sign, it says all formats. And technically speaking, these MP4 formats are not really audio formats. So you might want to click this little drop-down arrow there and select the audio formats. There you go. What you might notice is that there aren't all that many audio formats to choose from. The most popular format, MP3, is here in this list, but some other popular formats are not. Most notably, WAV files, that's a Windows audio file format that's not here. So that is a drawback to working with video inside Photoshop. But again, at least you can use MP3 files. Now, there aren't any audio files inside this folder that we can use, but I'm going to back up one notch, go to the other assets, and here are 2. Music 1, Music 2. I'll just double click on Music 1. It adds Music 1 there. If I want to have another audio track, I can click this little drop-down disclosure triangle there and say New Audio Track. There we go. Now we can do the same thing. Click the plus sign. There's the audio selection. Click Music 2 like that. There we go. I can also add still images. Let's say I want to put some still images on this track here. I go over to the right here, click on this little plus sign. Now notice down here in the Files of Type section, it says Photoshop. It doesn't show you all formats. This happens sometimes. You get like a blank slate staring at you and you wonder why that is. That's because the Files of Type did not go to all formats as it would normally do. It went to some individual file type, like Photoshop or 3D Studio. When that happens, depending on what you're looking for, you might want to select all the video format types or scroll on down to the bottom and then select all formats. I'm going to take this still image here, number 1 and number 5, by Control or Command clicking on that and bring in those 2 still images. That puts them after the last clip there inside that group, inside that video track. And there are the still images right there, like so. So that's how you start a video project here in Photoshop. You go to the Motion workspace, you click on the plus sign here at the end of the timeline, and bring in some video assets that way. You can add more assets to that track, you can add more tracks, and you can even bring in still images on the video tracks.